Hi everybody. So today I want to talk about something that I find particularly frustrating, and is actually the reason that I do this channel. So I was going around on different blogs and on YouTube and trying to find places that would review my book, because of course that's the most important thing, is getting reviews on Amazon or whatever, even if they're negative reviews, just getting people to read it and talk about it, etc., etc. So I figured the most obvious place to go would be where other independent artists are. YouTube, blogs, any independent source. Because you go to the main sources and, understandably they're essentially going, well, we go with traditional publishers because we are traditionally published, so we're helping our own. Frustrating but understandable. Okay, you're helping your own. So I figure, okay, go to where there are some of my own people, my own independent artists, self-published artists, etc., etc. And it was amazing what I saw. First of all, on a lot of the blogs, they would actually say at the beginning, if you are not traditionally published, don't even bother contacting us. And sometimes it was in that rude of language. Other times it was just plain, simply, we do not review self-published books, etc., etc. On YouTube, it was just a ghost town. In fact, they never would say that, but if you looked at what they were reviewing, they were always traditionally published. I would try to contact them. They would never write back. They'd write back, if they heard from somebody who was traditionally published or a traditional publisher, they'd go, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I just heard from this person. But when it was an independently published person, like themselves, suddenly, yeah, crickets. Nobody would be contacting them. They wouldn't be responding or anything. So I have a basic news flash for all of you who do blogs and YouTube videos and all that sort of thing, especially the ones who outright refuse to have anything to do with self-publishers. You are self-published! Every time that you click that little button that says publish, my blog, it's self-publishing. Every time you push that upload button on YouTube, guess what? It's self-publishing. Any independent source that is not through a traditional publisher, anytime you didn't go to CBS Studios or Warner Brothers or any of the major studios to have your video put up in the internet there, you're self-published. You did not go through the regular channels. That's the exact equivalent of us not going through the regular channels to have our book published. We didn't go to an agent, we didn't go to a publisher, just like you did not go to an agent and then a producer at a major studio. Does that mean we should stop watching you? No, because great and wonderful things are placed onto YouTube. Great and wonderful blogs come out every single day. And great and wonderful self-published indie books come out every day. Are there some crappy ones? Yes, and that seems to be the excuse always used. Well, I've read some, bad self-published books, so I don't do that anymore. Well, you know what? I saw some really bad YouTube videos made. Does that mean I should stop watching YouTube? I saw some really bad blogs that had misinformation. Does that mean I should stop reading blogs? Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? I'm getting commentary from the cats now. Anyway, so bottom line is, look, if you are doing these independent works yourself, you are yourself an independent artist. The big publishing houses have other traditional places to go to already. Us independents are trying to go to other independents, and to be shut out by these folks is ridiculous. I one time got into an argument with one of the vloggers who actually does some really great vlogs herself. I actually recommend her vlogs, but she outright refused to do anything of independent books. And at one point she was complaining, I can't afford to buy any more books right now, what am I going to read? And I'm like, I've been offering for all this time, and you've been ignoring, my response, my offers and other, independent authors' offers. And her argument was, it sounded very sweet. It was sort of, she's like, well, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. If I review something from an independent author and I don't like it, I'm dealing with the person himself, and I might be hurting them personally. Whereas, if I'm doing it from a traditionally published author, well, it's a big corporation. I'm not really hurting anybody's feelings. Okay, but you know what? You're hurting our feelings a lot more by not helping us. By shutting us all out, that's hurting our livelihood, and that's a hell of a lot worse than having somebody go on YouTube and say I didn't like my book. I would rather someone mention my book and say I didn't like it for whatever reasons. First of all, it's constructive criticism for me to help me improve, but also it gets, at least people know what exists, and somebody might disagree with you and, you know, put it up, or might go look it up or whatever. Plus, you get higher on the rankings in Amazon the more people, you know, talk about it or whatever. So it was for all the positive reasons she wasn't, you know, reading them, but having all negative results. Basically, let me put it this way. Imagine if I did the exact same thing with her as she had done, you know, with independent books. Essentially, I could say, oh, I saw a bad, you know, YouTube show, and I'd be really hurting somebody's feelings if I watched something and didn't like it and commented, you know, that it wasn't very good. Or also what she was saying is, well, I'm also not reading thousands of others that are out there if I read this one. It's like, well, okay, every time I watch one YouTube show, I'm suddenly not watching the thousands of others. Does that mean I should stop watching YouTube and just put it on television? I did end up unsubscribing, which really, to her, which I hated to do because I liked her videos. In fact, there was one in particular where she talked about feminism in a way that I've never heard her talked about and just really admired. But the simple fact of the matter was, if you are self-published and you refuse to support other self-publishers, I can't have anything to do with you anymore. I'll watch television because, you know, if they're not going to support self-published authors, well, okay, they are supporting other traditionally published, you know, people. It's disappointing, but I understand it a lot more. A newspaper is traditionally published, and they support other traditional publishers, et cetera, et cetera. Just like a movie studio supports other movie studios, and independent filmmakers support other independent filmmakers. It should be exactly the same way in the publishing world. One of the people I was particularly disappointed in, because he's one of my heroes, is John Green. If you haven't seen, if you don't know who the Vlogbrothers are, who are you? How did you wind up on YouTube? They do these incredible videos, but I was very disappointed when he came out criticizing self-publishing. You know, he wouldn't call it independent; he would call it self-publishing. And he essentially, I mean, here's the thing. That's sort of fascinating to me about that, is the whole reason why he's famous is because of self-publishing. You know, yes, his books were traditionally published, but he was not that well known through the traditional publishing world. It was once he started self-publishing on YouTube that he became incredibly famous. Well, how is that different? How is him putting videos up on YouTube for everybody to enjoy any different than us writing something and putting it up? There's going to be really good stuff, like his work, and there's going to be really bad stuff, like a lot of YouTube videos. There's going to be really good independently published books, or self-published, however you want to call it, and there are going to be some really bad ones. It really is no different from movies. Think about it. We think about independently produced movies. Independent movies are talked about all the time. Oh yeah, there was this great independent movie that I saw. Versus the studio system. There are some really great studio movies. I love the Avengers movies. I think what Marvel has been doing has been really good. And then there are some really fantastic independent films that are out there. So why would you think of books any differently? The traditionally published books are the exact same thing as movies the exact same thing as studio movies. They're run by a big corporation. They're run by, you know, individuals who are trying to make money. And then the independent books, just like the independent movies, are, you know, run by individuals who are so passionate about a project that they're willing to put their own time and money on the line and their reputations on the line to put it out there. They didn't care that they were told no by, you know, the people who were supposed to be in charge. They went out and they did it themselves. And it's literally the same thing with YouTube. YouTube is basically just independent film, independent television. They didn't go to the CBS executives and ask permission to do their things. So why should we have to go and ask permission from a literary agent and a traditional publisher? How is it any different at all? When you say no to, to a self-publisher or to one author, yes, you're saying no to the others, but same thing with YouTube. When I watch one video, I am saying no to all the others, or if I don't happen to like it, okay, but, at least I'm giving them a chance, and we're asking you for the same. I'm going to end this by telling you what it was that really drove me over the edge and that made me go, I have to do this. For one thing, actually, the main reason I started doing this channel was, it especially had to do with that conversation with the other vlogger, who I had really admired and liked her videos for a long time. Because here I was trying to tell her, review some independent books. Nobody else is doing it. Nobody on YouTube is reviewing independent books. I can't find any. And so many blogs were just refusing to. So I was just like, well, I don't really have the time for this, and I'm a slow reader, so it's going to be hard for me to do reviews, but if nobody else is doing it, somebody's got to do it. So if you want to do this, I encourage you to do it. You're not competition. You're supporting. Please go out there, talk about other independent books. If you're writing independent books, support the others. If you're doing YouTube videos, support other independent artists. It doesn't matter if it's on paper or on video. You should be supporting one another. But the final straw was when I was trying to get my book to Gun Heart published. Now, I had been self-publishing some of the others, but again, just like in the movies, I don't think it's a problem to do independent and studio. Sometimes you want to do independent. Some things are right for independent, some things are right for studio. You know, and so you just do whichever is right. You don't have to stay an independent, and you don't have to stay a studio filmmaker. Same thing with books. There were some that I stayed independent, and then this one was one that was like, oh, this will be a good studio project. This will be a good, traditionally published book. So I go to some of the publishers, and of course they say what they always say: you have to get an agent first. So I went to 100 agents. Didn't hear back from most of them, but the few that I heard back from, I got two reasons. One, I only heard back from a couple of them, and then the other reason I heard back from about 5 of them. The couple of them that I heard back from said, well, what about the movie rights? And at the time, I just didn't have them because the Capone family, had those movie rights with somebody else. So it's like, well, no, but I'm not looking to do a movie. And they went, well, we are. We are not interested in publishing a book unless we can, make it into a movie. So all of those of you who say, oh, well, don't watch movies, read books, understand this. The traditional publishers aren't interested in the books. They're interested in getting the rights so they can sell those rights for a movie. They're not interested in the book itself. It's just put the book out so it can get made into a movie. Not kidding. The other reason, and this was the main reason they gave, and this is what drove me over the edge, was they said, this is about an Italian-American who was not a gangster. They said, if you do something about Al or some other Italian-American who was a gangster, we'll publish it. That was literally what they were telling me, was that they said, if it's a book about an Italian-American who is not a gangster, we don't want it. A purely racist reason, but that was really their reasoning. And I could have gotten a book about Al traditionally published if I had wanted to. But I believed in the story. This guy was an amazing person. He was an amazing lawman. The oldest Capone brother was actually a heroic lawman. And his story deserves to be heard. And the reason it's never been told before is because these traditional publishers, for all of these decades, have been like, well, we want to continue the stereotype that Italian-Americans are gangsters. And that's it. And that's why there are so many Al Capone books, and that's why you don't hear about anyone else in the family. So I got to that point where I just was like, you know what? This needs to happen. People need to, hear this guy's story, and people need to know that there are a lot of great independent books out there being written by some phenomenal writers who really care about what they're doing. So if you are into independent movies, if you're into YouTube, if you are into blogging, if you are into any of these independent arts, self-publishing, independent publishing is no different at all. Are there some that are bad? Yes. But I can guarantee you one thing. If it was independently published, it was by somebody who cared so much about this project that they were willing to take whatever free time they had and whatever free money they had and put it into this. So that's what you're going to have. Thank you for watching.